stop. Don't move to Hartford, Connecticut. If Hartford is at the top of your relocation list, I want you to stop for a second, not because Hartford is a bad place, but because most people who move there realize after the fact that it wasn't actually what they were looking for. Here's the truth most relocation videos won't tell you. People don't usually want Hartford. They want what they think Hartford represents. They want access to jobs, culture, restaurants, convenience, opportunity. They want options. What they don't want are the trade-offs that only show up once you're living there full time, the kind of thing that nobody explains during the home search. Today, I'm going to show you 5 towns near Hartford that smart buyers consistently choose instead, and this is exactly why. I've lived here in Connecticut my whole entire life. I started my business here. I run a real estate team, and we help people every single day move into Connecticut from all over the country. I can tell you this confidently. Most buyers who start their search saying, "We want Hartford," end up somewhere else once they understand the landscape. This video is the conversation I have before people make an expensive assumption. And don't get me wrong, this is not a Hartford hit piece. Hartford has history, major employers, and real importance in Connecticut. But relocation isn't just about picking the most recognizable city name on a map. It's about choosing a place that actually fits how you live day in and day out, not how you imagine life working out just in your head. Hartford is often the reference point, but it's not always the destination. Hartford is Connecticut's capital, but it's not a single experience. Housing stock, density, neighborhood feel, taxes, they can vary dramatically within short distances. What most relocating buyers are actually looking for is this: easy access to Hartford jobs, easy access to the highways, being close so you could go catch a UConn game, but being just outside of Hartford. People are looking for the dining, the culture, the activities nearby, but not the nonstop Hartford life. They want predictable neighborhoods. They want homes that make sense long term, and they, of course, want resale confidence. Those lists of needs don't always line up cleanly inside the city, but just outside, that's where things get interesting. Quick note before we dive into towns: if you're relocating to Connecticut and you're beginning to feel overwhelmed by towns that sound similar online, but feel completely different in real life, that's normal. Most relocation mistakes don't happen at closing. They happen at the comparison stage, when buyers don't know where and what to measure. There's something else most relocation buyers miss about Hartford. Hartford is a weekday city. During business hours, it moves major employers, state offices, insurance companies. It has that professional pulse. But evenings and weekends can feel very, very different depending on the neighborhood. The rhythm shifts. It catches people off guard. If you're relocating from Boston or New York, or even parts of the Midwest where downtown areas are active 24/7, Hartford may feel quieter than expected after 6 o'clock. That's not necessarily a negative, but it is definitely a lifestyle difference. And lifestyle differences are what matter most once the boxes are unpacked. So now let's talk about towns. The first town I'm going to bring up today is West Hartford. West Hartford is one of the most obvious Hartford alternatives, and for good reason. This is where buyers land when they want walkability, restaurants, energy, but don't want to live inside a dense urban core. The town centers are active, social, intentionally designed around people who actually use them. One thing buyers notice quickly is how different daily life feels in West Hartford. You can grab coffee, meet friends for dinner, and still come home to a quieter residential street. The balance is hard to find inside a city. From a long-term standpoint, West Hartford is extremely consistent with demand. Homes tend to hold value even during slow markets. This area doesn't see dramatic swings. Many buyers assume West Hartford is basically Hartford. Nothing could be further from the truth. It is not. The lifestyle difference is immediate. Resale performance reflects the gap. Let's go deeper on West Hartford for a minute. A lot of buyers focus only on West Hartford Center, but the town is layered. There are older historic neighborhoods with character homes, mid-century sections with practical layouts, and higher-end pockets with large colonials. You can tailor lifestyle here without leaving town. And here's something important from a market perspective. Buyer competition in West Hartford rarely disappears. Even in slower cycles, demand stays consistent because relocation buyers, local move-up buyers, and downsizers are all competing in an overlapping price range. That creates liquidity. Liquidity equals better options. When people talk about resale confidence, this is what they mean. Town number 2 is Newington. Newington doesn't generate flashy headlines, but that's exactly why it works. The town attracts buyers who prioritize functionality over hype. Commuting is straightforward. Neighborhoods are stable. Housing stock tends to be practical and predictable. Newington appeals to people who want life to feel manageable. Fewer surprises, less guessing, more consistency. Newington is often the town buyers choose after stretching their budgets elsewhere and realizing comfort matters more than prestige. Newington deserves more credit than it gets. It doesn't try to sell you a lifestyle that's fantasy, it sells you simplicity. Road networks are easy, errands are easy, parking is easy, getting on I-84 or Route 9 is easy. When you relocate from out of state, the frictionless daily rhythm becomes surprisingly valuable. Another thing buyers notice after living here for a few months? The noise level. Less through traffic, fewer major event disruptions, more consistent neighborhood patterns. For buyers with remote or hybrid jobs, the calm environment can matter way more than the proximity to the downtown skyline. Town number 3 is Glastonbury. Glastonbury is the step-up option near Hartford. Buyers here usually think long-term. They want more space, a more polished feel, and neighborhoods that feel intentional. Prices are higher, but demand stays extremely steady. One thing that surprises relocating buyers is how manageable the commute actually is. On paper, it looks far. In practice, it rarely feels that way. Glastonbury often appeals to people who want room to grow without feeling disconnected from everything. Now let's add some context to Glastonbury because this town plays a different game. Glastonbury attracts buyers who are often thinking 5, 10, 15 years ahead, and it's not usually the entry-level play. It's the "we're planting roots" decision. The town blends suburban neighborhoods with scenic stretches near the river and farmland areas. The mix gives it more spacious and a more polished atmosphere. From an investment standpoint, Glastonbury tends to experience less volatility. It doesn't spike dramatically, but it also doesn't dip dramatically. Stability attracts stability. That's why relocation buyers with higher budgets often circle here after they initially look at other Hartford areas. Now, I have to give a couple important disclaimers because this matters. There is no universally best town. You should always research safety, crime, schools. There are so many resources online, even on our website, to go get these stats, but do your due diligence. You can use tools like greatschools.org for school research. You could visit neighborhoods at different times of the day. I always say go back after dark, go first thing in the morning, go mid-afternoon, see what the neighborhood is all about. This video is more about fit, not ranking or guarantees. Town number 4 is Rocky Hill. Rocky Hill is one of the most underrated Hartford alternatives. The town works well for buyers who want proximity without intensity. Commutes are short, neighborhoods feel calmer, and pricing often surprises people once they compare it side by side with other areas. Rocky Hill tends to win when they do real math. Distance versus cost, convenience versus lifestyle. Buyers often overlook Rocky Hill early, but then they circle back and realize it checks way more boxes than they expected. Rocky Hill's a fascinating one because it wins with math. Distance to Hartford, minimal. Access to I-91, immediate. Housing price relative to proximity, often favorable. It also sits along the river, which gives it a certain section a different aesthetic than what most people expect from the suburbs. Another thing people underestimate here is the traffic flow. Rocky Hill's layout makes commuting smoother than many assume when they just glance at a map. When buyers compare drive times in real life instead of online estimates, Rocky Hill frequently moves up their list. Town number 5, Farmington. Farmington is predictable, and in real estate, that is a compliment. This is a town people choose when they're done guessing. They want consistency, stability, confidence. What they buy today still makes sense years down the line, and neighborhoods are well established. Layouts feel intentional, and the town doesn't swing wildly with market trends. Demand here stays steady even when conditions change. A little unexpected insight: Farmington appeals strongly to buyers who value risk management and long-term confidence over hype or trend chasing. Farmington operates quietly, and that's its strength. The town has long established neighborhoods, a mix of classic colonials and higher end properties, and a layout that feels structured. It also benefits from proximity to major employers like Yukon Health and access to Route 4 and I-84, which broadens commuting options significantly. Farmington appeals to analytical buyers, the ones who look at historic appreciation patterns, the ones who compare tax structures, the ones who think about exit strategy before they even move in. And those buyers tend to sleep well at night. If you're deciding between Hartford and surrounding towns, this is exactly the comparison we walk through with clients every single day. Sometimes Hartford is the right choice, but more often, one of these towns fits better once you zoom out and look at the daily life, not just the pin in the map. Clarity early saves money, stress, and regret later. Isn't Hartford cheaper? Sometimes, until taxes, condition, and resale volatility enter the picture. I want city life. That's why West Hartford exists. I don't want a long commute. Most of these towns are closer than people assume. Let me simplify this for you. If you want urban energy and walkability, you want West Hartford. If you want function and practicality, you probably want Newington. If you want long-term upscale stability, let's look at Glastonbury. If you want commute math and value balance, Rocky Hill might be the best place for you. And how about predictability and resale strength? Farmington is leading that category. Hartford itself, it is an employment anchor, but anchors don't always have to be where you live. Sometimes it's just where you work. That's the shift most relocating buyers make once they see the whole picture. Here's why people default to Hartford when searching online. I think it's because it's the capital. It shows up first in search results. It's recognizable. It sounds central, but relocation success isn't about recognition. It is about fit. Search algorithms don't know your lifestyle. They don't know your tolerance for density. They don't know how much quiet you need after work. That's where local insight changes the outcome. Is Hartford more affordable? Sometimes up front, yes. But affordability is more than just the purchase price. It's also about the tax structure, the insurance costs, property condition, the market volatility, future buyer pool. When you factor all these things in, the equation often shifts. Won't I miss out on city life? Not if you live within 10 to 15 minutes and you can hop in your car when you want it. That is the Connecticut advantage. Everything is close. Nothing requires a 90-minute commute. Relocating is rarely about finding the cheapest house. It's about choosing the right ecosystem. Hartford is an ecosystem, but so are all the towns around it. And in Connecticut, the difference between one town and the next can completely change how your daily life feels, even if they're only 8 miles apart. That nuance is what protects people from expensive regret. Now, don't get me wrong, Hartford isn't the wrong choice. It's just not the automatic one. If you want access without compromise and options without chaos, these 5 towns deserve a serious look. Drop a comment with which one surprised you. And if you're planning a move to Connecticut, reach out. Informed decisions beat hopeful ones every single time.